Archie calling his son-in-law
meathead,
Edith's high-pitched
Archie.
and slurs that made censors cringe. All in the Family is the legendary show that would surely be canceled today. But what many people don't realize is that it almost never happened in the first place. And the ripple effect would have been massive. Many of the shows that you love today, gone. Today we're going through what really happened with All in the Family and the crazy butterfly effect that we were this close to losing. First, hit the like button if you loved watching All in the Family and subscribe for more retro TV rewinds. Let's go back to 1968. LBJ is president. The Vietnam War is raging. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy have just been assassinated. America is literally tearing itself apart. But on television, families are perfect. Every network sitcom is the same formula. Whether it's the Andy Griffith Show or the Beverly Hillbillies, it's all about wholesome families, simple problems, moral lessons, and everyone living happily ever after in their perfectly decorated living rooms. Nobody talks about race, politics, or anything real. And a television writer named Norman Lear was sick of it. Lear was grinding away in Hollywood, working on comedy specials and movies, and he'd seen something that changed everything. A British sitcom called Till Death, Us Do Part, about a working-class bigot named Alf Garnett who constantly battled with his liberal son-in-law. Lear bought the American rights in 1968, and he had a vision that was basically heresy. What if we made a show about a family that actually argued about real things? What if we put racism, sexism, and politics right there in your living room? He developed a pilot called Justice for All, and right off the hop, we got one of Hollywood's most famous what-ifs. Carroll O'Connor wasn't the first choice to play Archie. Lear wanted Mickey Rooney. He reached out to Rooney's manager, got him on the phone, started his pitch. Rooney, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, was terrified of the show. He turned it down flat, predicting it would be a total disaster. So Lear cast Carroll O'Connor, a guy who'd been grinding in bit parts and theater, as Archie Justice. And even he was convinced the show would fail, so much so that he asked Lear to provide him with a return airplane ticket to Rome when the show failed. He also cast Jean Stapleton, a Broadway actress Lear remembered from Damn Yankees as his wife Edith, and two actors, Kelly Jean Peters and Tim McIntyre, to play their daughter Gloria and her husband Richard. That's right, Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner were not part of the original cast. He actually wanted Harrison Ford for Richard, but Ford turned it down, citing Archie Bunker's bigotry as something he didn't want to be associated with. The pilot was taped in New York in October 1968. They took it to ABC. They tested it with audiences. And yeah, it wasn't good. People didn't know what to make of it. The language was too harsh. The topics too controversial. Audiences in 1968 weren't ready for a toilet flushing on television or slurs at the dinner table. So ABC passed, but they gave Lear one more shot. So he reshot the pilot in February 1969 in Hollywood. New title, Those Were the Days, named after the nostalgic theme song they'd written. Same Archie and Edith, still named the Justice family, but new actors for Gloria and her husband, Candace Azara and Chip Oliver, a former Oakland Raiders linebacker. ABC tested it again. Same result, audiences still weren't connecting. The chemistry wasn't there. The young couple wasn't working with O'Connor and Stapleton. So ABC passed again. At that point, the show was dead. For over a year, it sat on a shelf. Norman Lear had 2 rejected pilots and no network. But then something happened that nobody expected. CBS was in trouble. The network had the highest-rated shows on television, the Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres, Hee Haw, but they had the wrong audience. Their shows skewed old and rural, and advertisers wanted young urban viewers with money to spend. CBS President Robert Wood was about to execute what would become known as the Rural Purge. He needed something new, something different, something that would attract younger, more affluent audiences. Someone at CBS remembered that dead ABC pilot. They rewatched it. Wood thought it was hilarious, but he had concerns. They wanted to test it again, so Lear shot a 3rd pilot in 1970. This time, the family name was changed from Justice to Bunker. The son-in-law's name was changed from Richard to Michael. And most importantly, they recast the kids again. For this 3rd attempt, CBS said they needed better chemistry. Norman Lear later said, "The gods wanted me to come across Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers." So who were these 2 actors, and how did they end up saving the show? Rob Reiner had actually auditioned for the first pilot, but was rejected because he wasn't mature enough as an actor. But in the gap between the first and third pilots, Reiner played a teacher on Andy Griffith's 1970 show, Headmaster. He auditioned again, and Lear finally felt he had the gravitas to pull off the role. The chemistry was instant. The arguments with O'Connor felt real. The tension between liberal and conservative, young and old, it all clicked. And then there was Sally Struthers. Sally had just been fired from the Tim Conway Comedy Hour after only 7 episodes. Executives told the producers to get rid of that dancer girl. She makes the show look cheap. Struthers was devastated, and she'd adored Tim Conway and wondered what would happen to her career. But that firing turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to her. Norman Lear had spotted Struthers dancing on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. When it came time to cast Gloria for the third pilot, he brought her into audition. Here's the crazy part. Struthers thought she had no chance. Rob Reiner's girlfriend at the time was Penny Marshall, and Penny was also up for the role of Gloria. In fact, Penny Marshall more resembled Jean Stapleton physically. But Lear wanted Sally because she more resembled Carroll O'Connor. Sally later revealed that Lear told her she was hired because just like Carroll O'Connor, you have blue eyes and a fat face. Not exactly the most flattering casting note, but it worked. Struthers auditioned with Reiner, and as Lear put it was another bolt of lightning. The chemistry between all 4 actors, O'Connor, Stapleton, Reiner, and Struthers, was magic. CBS finally committed to 13 episodes as a mid-season replacement. The premiere was set for January 12, 1971. But even then, the network was terrified. On July 22, 1970, 6 months before the premiere, Variety asked CBS President Robert Wood why the network wasn't promoting this new show. Wood's response? Frankly, we're still not sure how to introduce this one to the public. It might just be best to go on with no fanfare and then prepare ourselves for the explosion. CBS expected outrage. They manned the phone lines with extra operators. They prepared for a flood of angry calls demanding the show be canceled. And they did something they'd never done before. They ran a disclaimer before the first episode aired. It was unprecedented, a sitcom with a warning label. Rob Reiner later joked that the disclaimer basically said, "Nothing you're about to see has anything that we want to have anything to do with. As far as we're concerned, if you don't watch the next half hour, it's okay with us." The show aired. The phone lines at CBS lit up. But here's the thing. The calls weren't angry. They were supportive. People loved it, except the ratings didn't show it. The first episode drew only a 15% audience share. It finished 3rd in its time slot behind movies on NBC and ABC. Only about 11 million households tuned in. Critics were mixed. Variety called it the best TV comedy since The Honeymooners. But Life magazine's John Leonard called it a wretched program and bigotry as a dirty joke. CBS executives started having meetings. The show wasn't connecting. They'd committed to 13 episodes, but after that, the show was probably done. Once again, All in the Family was on life support. Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner both thought they'd last 13 weeks and then get canceled. "When we first went on, we thought we were going to be taken off the air," Struthers later said. But then, slowly, something started to happen. Critical acclaim began to build. In May 1971, the Emmys aired. All in the Family won Outstanding Comedy Series, Outstanding News Series. Jean Stapleton won Outstanding Lead Actress. Suddenly, America was paying attention. The show that CBS had been too afraid to promote was winning television's highest honors. And then came summer reruns. While other networks ran reruns of their hit shows, CBS re-aired those first 13 episodes of All in the Family, and people who'd missed it the first time, or who'd been curious about all the Emmy buzz, tuned in. Summer reruns of the first season made All in the Family the most-watched show in the United States. When Season 2 premiered on September 18, 1971, All in the Family was moved to Saturday nights at 8 p.m., CBS's most valuable time slot, the lead-in position for the entire Saturday lineup. And for the next 5 years, All in the Family was the #1 show on television, not just a hit. The biggest show in America. The first series in television history to hold the top Nielsen spot for 5 consecutive years. At its peak, over 50 million Americans were tuning in every week, more than half of everyone watching television. The show that took 3 pilots and 3 years to get on the air. The show that Mickey Rooney said would get Lear shot dead in the streets. It was now unstoppable. But at the same time, it was constantly on the edge of disaster. During season 2, Norman Lear and CBS battled over an episode called Mike's Problem, about impotence. CBS didn't want to air it. Lear threatened to quit. CBS backed down. In 1974, during season 5, the show almost imploded completely. Carroll O'Connor went on strike. He filed a lawsuit against Tandem Productions for $64,000 he claimed he was owed. But the money wasn't even the main issue. O'Connor wanted script control. He wanted to be a writer on the show. He wanted a Monday through Friday schedule instead of 6-day weeks. He wanted 12 weeks off per year out of the 24-week production schedule. Norman Lear was furious. He started writing O'Connor out of episodes. 3 episodes of season 5 were filmed without Archie Bunker. And if you don't think this was serious, get this. Lear introduced a new character named Stretch Cunningham, played by James Cromwell. Lear's plan? Kill Archie in an accident and have Stretch move into the bunker house. Lear was ready to replace the main character of the most popular show on television. Eventually, O'Connor came back. He got a raise, though not all the creative control he wanted. The show went on. But ironically, 2 seasons later, Stretch Cunningham was killed off, allegedly at Carroll O'Connor's request. James Cromwell later told the New York Post that he was getting too many laughs for O'Connor's liking. But through it all, the show kept breaking barriers. Every season brought controversy. Every season brought protests from politicians and religious groups. President Richard Nixon was even caught on the Watergate tapes complaining that the show glorified homosexuality. And every season, CBS said, "Keep going." All in the Family ran for 9 seasons, 205 episodes. It transitioned into Archie Bunker's place for 4 more seasons, bringing Carroll O'Connor's total run as Archie Bunker to over 12 years on television. The series finale in 1979 was watched by over 40 million viewers. During its run, O'Connor won 4 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series in 1972, 77, 78, and 79. Gene Stapleton won 3. Sally Struthers won 2. Rob Reiner won 2. The show itself won Outstanding Comedy Series 3 times, but this is far from the end of the story. Because the butterfly effect of All in the Family's survival changed television forever. Let's start with the most direct impact. It literally saved CBS as a network powerhouse. CBS was hemorrhaging money trying to attract younger audiences. The rural purge had been risky, canceling their highest-rated shows. But All in the Family proved they'd made the right call. The show became the financial engine that allowed CBS to invest in other groundbreaking programming, to build a brand identity as the network willing to tackle tough subjects. And that brings us to the first domino, the spin-offs. All in the Family didn't just inspire other shows, it spawned them directly. 7 spin-offs in total, creating an entire interconnected universe of programming. First came Maude in 1972. Edith's liberal cousin, Maude Findlay, played by B. Arthur, first appeared in the December 11th, 1971 episode Cousin Maude's Visit. She was Archie's intellectual equal, a loud feminist who gave as good as she got. The chemistry was electric, so CBS gave her a spin-off. Maude ran for 6 seasons and 141 episodes. It tackled abortion head-on in 1972, a 2-part episode called Maude's Dilemma, where the 47-year-old title character decides to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. It aired 2 months before Roe v. Wade. The controversy was massive, but CBS stood firm. In 1973, at the Golden Globe Awards, Maude was nominated for Best TV Show, Musical Comedy. It lost to All in the Family. The parent show beat its own spin-off. Then came the spin-off of a spin-off, Good Times. A spin-off of Maude, Maude's maid, Florida Evans, got her own show about a black family living in a Chicago housing project. Norman Lear himself said it was the first full black family on television, meaning 2 parents and more than 1 kid. The show was co-created by Mike Evans, who played Lionel Jefferson on All in the Family and The Jeffersons. Good Times ran for 6 seasons and became a cultural phenomenon. Jimmy Walker's "Dynamite" became one of the most quoted catchphrases of the 1970s. But the biggest spin-off came in January 1975, The Jeffersons. Archie's black neighbors George and Louise Jefferson and their son Lionel had been part of All in the Family since 1971. George didn't appear on screen until 1973 because Sherman Hemsley, Lear's first choice for the role, was performing in the Broadway musical Purlie and didn't want to break his commitment. Lear waited for him for 2 years. That's how perfect the casting was. The idea for the Jeffersons came after 3 members of the Black Panthers visited Lear's CBS office with a complaint about good times. Every time you see a black man on the tube, he is dirt poor, wears clothes, can't afford nothing, Lear recalled in his autobiography. So Lear created a show about a successful black family who'd made it. George Jefferson's dry cleaning chain had made him wealthy, and the family moved on up to a luxury apartment on Manhattan's Upper East Side. The Jeffersons ran for 11 seasons, 253 episodes, longer than All in the Family itself. The spin-offs continued. Archie Bunker's Place, Gloria Checking In, which lasted 4 episodes, and even 704 Hauser in 1994, a show about a new family living in the Bunker's old address, but the impact went far beyond just the spin-offs. All in the Family proved that sitcoms could be more than escapism. They could hold a mirror up to society. They could make you uncomfortable and make you laugh. Also, the show's impact on representation was massive. Before All in the Family, black characters on sitcoms were mostly servants or sidekicks. The Jeffersons changed that forever, showing a wealthy, successful black family in prime time. According to Screen Rant's analysis of influential sitcoms, the Jeffersons became a huge influence on The Cosby Show, Good Times, Family Matters, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Black-ish. Before 1971, gay characters weren't just underrepresented on television, they effectively didn't exist. Episode 5 introduced the first gay character on a sitcom, Archie's linebacker friend Steve. Before All in the Family, you couldn't show a married couple in the same bed, you couldn't flush a toilet on camera. You couldn't discuss menopause or impotence or miscarriage. All in the Family broke down every barrier. Every edgy sitcom since, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to South Park to The Office to Curb Your Enthusiasm, exists because All in the Family proved that audiences were smarter and more sophisticated than network executives believed. As it turned out, the show that Mickey Rooney predicted would get Norman Lear shot in the streets and took 3 pilots to get to air became the most influential sitcom in television history. If you enjoyed this Retro TV Deep Dive, subscribe for more and leave your favorite All in the Family moment in the comments.